Lesson 7.2, equations with rational numbers. So equations with fractions and decimals in them. Now we follow the same 5 steps to solve equations that we have been following. E, C, G, and S. Every cowboy gets nervous sometimes. That's how we remember the 5 steps to solve equations. The E on every reminds us to eliminate the parentheses by the distributive property. The C reminds us to combine like terms. We look left, then we look right. The G reminds us to get the variable on one side. The N reminds us to get the numbers on the other side. And the S reminds us to solve by dividing both sides by the coefficient. Here in number 1, I have 1/4 minus 1/2 r equals negative 3/4 r. Now, I could solve this equation leaving the fractions in it, but operating with fractions can become very messy. So, how can we make these fractions into integers that are a little bit easier to deal with? Well, we can multiply both sides of the equation by a number so that the fractions will become integers. And that number that we should multiply both sides by should be the LCM, or the least common multiple. And so look at our denominators. The denominators are 4 and 2. What is the LCM of 4 and 2? Or what is the lowest multiple that 2 and 4 have in common? Well, you should say 4, right? Because we can get 2 to be 4. And so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides by that LCM, by that lowest common multiple. And so when I multiply both sides, I'm going to show that I multiply both sides by putting the left side in parentheses and putting the right side in parentheses to show that I'm going to multiply by a number, and that number is 4. Now, I'm going to write 4 as a fraction by putting it over 1. So 4 over 1. I multiply the left side by 4, and the golden rule for equations tells me that whatever I do to one side, I must also do to the other side. So if I multiply the left side by 4 over 1, I must also multiply this side by 4 over 1. Okay? Now, to solve the equation, do you see parentheses? Yes, you do. And so to eliminate the parentheses, I need to distribute. And so on the left side, I'm going to distribute 4. I go 4, rainbow to 1/4. So I have 4 over 1 times 1/4. Okay? This is a positive 4 over 1 I am distributing, so I also have positive 4 over 1 times this, and this is negative 1/2 r. So 4 over 1 times negative 1/2 r. Okay? Then I have my equal sign, and on the right side of the equal sign, I am doing 4 over 1 times negative 3/4 r. Okay, now let's simplify here. What is 4 times 1/4? Well, I can cross simplify there. Not cross multiply, cross simplify. I see that I have 4 over 4. I have a 4 on the top and a 4 on the bottom. And I know 4 over 4 is equal to 1. Okay, and 1 times 1 is simply 1. 4 times negative 1/2 r. Well, I have a positive number times a negative number. And I know since I'm multiplying with different signs, my answer will be negative. Okay, now I have 4 over 2. What is 4 over 2? Well, that's the same thing as 2, right? So 4 over 2 is the same thing as 2 over 1. So now I have 2 times 1. Well, 2 times 1, or 2 times negative 1, is negative 2. Don't forget your r, negative 2r. Bring your equal sign straight down. On this side, you have a positive times a negative, so you're going to get a negative number. And you have 4 over 4 here. 4 over 4 can simplify because that's the same thing as 1 over 1. All right, so now you have 1 times negative 3, which is negative 3. Don't forget your r, negative 3r. From this point, I need to get the variable on one side. I would undo the subtraction by addition, so I'm going to add 2r to both sides, so those 2r's cancel. Also on the left side, I have 1 equals negative 3r plus 2r is negative 1r. And to solve for r, I divide by that coefficient of negative 1. And so r is equal to 1 divided by negative 1, which is negative 1. All right, so in example 1, I have negative 1. Example number 2, I have 3/4 x plus 2 equals 3/8 x minus 4. Now I see I have fractions. I want to eliminate those fractions. I want those fractions to be integers. And so I need to think about what number can I multiply both sides by so that I end up with only integers. Well, I see my denominators are 4 and 8. So what is the LCM, or the lowest common multiple, between 4 and 8? Well, you should say 8, right? So I'm going to multiply the left side by 8, or 8 over 1. And I'm going to multiply the right side by 8, or 8 over 1. And so as you can see, I put both sides in parentheses to show that I am multiplying. Now to get rid of these parentheses, I'm going to need to distribute to eliminate the parentheses. So I have 8 times 8 over 1 times 3/4 x. Okay, I'm using parentheses to show multiplication. I'm distributing a positive 8, so again I have positive 8 over 1, positive 8 over 1 times positive 2 times positive 2, or 2 over 1. Bring your equal sign straight down. I also need to distribute on the right side. So I have 8 over 1, 8 over 1, because that's the number that I am distributing, 8 over 1 times 3/8 x, 3/8 x. Okay? Then I have positive 8 over 1, positive 8 over 1 times, what's this number? This is negative 4, where I could put negative 4 over 1. Now let's simplify here. What's 8 over 1 times 3/4 x? Well, I can cross simplify 8 over 4 to be 2 over 1, right? Because 8 over 4, or 8 divided by 4 is 2. So now I have 2 times 3x, which is 6x. Then I have 8 times 2, that's positive 16. Bring the equal sign down. Here I have 8 over 8. I can cross simplify, right? That becomes 1. So 1 times 3x is simply 3x. And then I have 8 times negative 4. Well, 8 times negative 4 is negative 32. So now you can see my equation is only integers now. I have no fractions in there. So I need to get the variable on one side. So let's move this 3x to the other side by subtracting 3x, so that those 3x's will cancel. 6x minus 3x is 3x. I still have plus 16. Bring the equal sign down, and on this side you have negative 32. Negative 32. Now that you have your variable on one side, you got to get this number to the other side. By undoing the addition, you would subtract 16 from both sides so that those 16s cancel. So you're left with 3x equals, here you have two negative numbers. If you add two negative numbers, you add 32 plus 16 is 48, and you keep the sign, so keep the negative sign. Solve for x by dividing by the coefficient, that would be 3. Those 3's simplify, and so x is equal to negative 48 over 3. Different signs negative. 48 divided by 3 is 16. So x is negative 16.